but I do welcome the opportunity to be here. She mentioned our deceased hero, Chokwe Lumumba. I also want to sort of talk about how it's important that he also was carrying on the work of Mario Bedelli, lest people forget. And before Mario Bedelli, there was Medgar Evers, T.R.M. Howard, and a host of other people. And I'm doing this basically because I was kind of a history major, and I see almost everything through historical lenses. And so it's from that perspective that I think we come here today, and we must go from here today. It's also ironic that the two of us are here together because we were supposed to give kind of a context of how things are in Jackson. And that's good. I love Jackson too. But I also come from the Mississippi Delta, and I want to talk a little bit about that because in a real sense, that's where the most crude and observant violation of human rights have occurred over the years. So I'm going to spend most of my comments basically talking about that portion of it. And I just want to, just for the historical fact, just look at a few examples. And I'm scheduled later on to talk about water. And I thought it's ironic because when I was growing up, there's a section of Rosedale. When you go to Rosedale, you go into Bolivar County, you enter from Highway 8 from Cleveland. And as you're driving in Rosedale, the first little section you get to is something that we used to call Professor Brown's Junction. It was all black, everybody along there. And the whole while I was growing up, they never had access to water. They had to use wagons to come into town or into the other part of the town to get water and then haul it back. But on the other hand, they would charge the same fees that everybody else in Rosedale would charge, even though they didn't really have access to water at all. Now I think about that when I look at Flint, Michigan, and I think about that when I hear a few weeks ago here in the city of Jackson, they were talking about they may have to encourage all households to take out some kind of insurance in order to make sure the water gets to their house from the mainstream. And I said, gee, just like she just said, the more things change, the more they remain the same. A second example, when I was growing up, I couldn't understand why it was that we who worked the fields every day, 12 hours, why we were not covered by Social Security and why minimum wage did not apply to us. As that closed down when I came to Jackson State, closing down part, as the farm became mechanized, folks were no longer going to the fields every day. Only then did the law begin to reach out and talk about Social Security and minimum wages for all the other citizens. But the whole while I worked, and there was no such animal as Social Security for me, even though the plantation owner was receiving government subsidies for his particular farm. The third example I just wanted to give was to talk about the fact when we worked in the cotton fields in the Mississippi Delta, it was not strange for us to look up, periodically and see a crop duster coming over spraying the field with insecticides. And of course we covered our heads and stuff as they did that. They were poisoning us as well as the crops. Well, I think we see some similar things to that happening every day for folks who live near these pipelines and nuclear plants and all the other hazardous kind of things that they occur. And periodically, you watch the news now, and you'll hear of a train wreck, and there was hazardous material, and they're out trying to cover that over. All of this, just to me, is reminiscent of what has occurred before, maybe under a slightly different set of circumstances, but they're still the same things. And then fourthly, I come in and I would talk about the public schools. The public schools that I went to, first of all, we were overcrowded. There were 2 buildings that had 8 rooms, but there were 12 different grades being taught in those 8 rooms. And we usually got the textbooks that 6th year after their use because they had been used by the white schools the first 5 years, and the 6th year, we got the books and got a chance to use them. When they finally organized the football team the year that I graduated, they brought down all of the uniforms that the white kids had played in all of the years that they've been playing football. Oh, somebody told me that there's a problem now in some of the Jackson public schools of some of the kids having textbooks that are current and able to be used. The more things change, the more they remain the same. That's true for the Mississippi Delta even more than it is for Jackson, Mississippi, but it's the same problem all over the place. I thought it later away from the hand. I thought maybe I had talked too long.
No, okay. That wasn't you, Dr. Phillips.
Okay. So, just like my sister here, I welcome the people from the UN to come here to hear what has historically been happening and what is continuing to happen. And then I welcome all of my brothers and sisters out here who are participants to share with the rest of us what they have witnessed, what they have experienced. Because it's only by sharing this kind of information do we really hold up a mirror and see that the United States of America is not only just like the rest of the world, in many instances it's one of the biggest culprits in the world. And so with that, I'll yield back to my sister.